Good evening, viewers and listeners. Welcome to another edition of Serving the People, brought to you by the Democratic Republican Party of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the DRP. I am your host and political leader of the DRP, Mrs. Anissa Batiste. Now, please let us start with a word of prayer. Loving Father in heaven, do bless our viewers and listeners with understanding as we share with them information about the dangers of genetically modified organisms, and as we show them the great plans and ideas of the DRP to protect the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines from these dangers. In Jesus' name, amen. And now, fellow Vincentians, if you wish to contact me at this program, you may call the number on your screen or send a WhatsApp or Viber message. It's 528-1015. That's 528-1015. This evening's program is a special repeat of information which we have shared with you before on the dangers of genetically modified organisms. Yes, we want you to understand, based on requests from persons, how dangerous GMOs are and why the DRP takes the position and has the great plans and ideas for the protection of our people and our agricultural environment from such organisms. So take a look at this presentation, originally done by one Nyron Medina of Trinidad and Tobago. Take a look.
Today, we want to look at the fact that our very food supply, whether you are a vegan, a vegetarian, or a meat eater, our very food supply have been infiltrated with things that are terrible for our health. The major culprit in all of this is a company by the name of Monsanto. And Monsanto is the major corporation for genetically modified foods. Yes, my dear people. The major problem that we are facing today is that when you eat Monsanto's GMO foods, you have introduced major changes in the very genes and the very functionings of your bodies. And these changes are almost irreversible. Yes, my dear people. As a result of that, many diseases of today can be attributed to Monsanto and their genetically modified foods. In 2013, a march was planned against Monsanto. Let's see what this clip tells us.
This week, Saturday, October 12th, as we prepare to publish this episode, people in over 400 cities and 57 countries will march against Monsanto. Worldwide action comes days ahead of Monsanto receiving the Nobel Prize for Agriculture, the prestigious World Prize of Food for creating GMOs. No, this is not my audition tape for the Onion News Desk. That's a real story. In protest, 81 counselors of the World Future Council have penned a statement blasting the World Food Prize Foundation for betraying its purpose. In the words of the authors, quote, GMO seeds reinforce a model of farming that undermines sustainability of cash-poor farmers who make up most of the world's hungry. The most dramatic impact of such dependency is in India, where 270,000 farmers, many trapped in debt for buying seeds and chemicals, committed suicide between 1995 and 2012. In my country, the United States, efforts are stepping up to compel the government to compel foods that use genetically modified organisms to label them as such, which the agricultural megalopoly Monsanto, which earns both its obscene riches and its well-earned reputation as the least ethical company in the world producing. Activists posing as lobbyists from the fictional Biotechnology Industry Awards Committee delivered the Monsanto Minion Awards to Senate offices of those they accused of being too friendly with the company.
Yes, my dear people, this is what happened. Now here is an account of what is Monsanto and its genetically modified foods. The Monsanto Company, a United States-based multinational agricultural biotechnology corporation, is the leading producer of genetically engineered seed, holding a 70 to 100% market share for crops such as corn, canola, cotton, soybean, and many more. Genetically modified organisms, GMO, have had specific changes introduced into their DNA by genetic engineering. GMO foods were introduced in the early 1900s. In this next clip, you will see the dangerous way in which GMOs are made by Monsanto. GMOs are made by manipulation of deadly viruses and bacteria, such as E. coli, that have been engineered to be immune to antibiotics. GMOs are now acting much like the deadly virus and pre-cancer cells they are made from by infecting organisms that were once pure and healthy. Yes, my dear people, Monsanto has a herbicide or weedicide called Roundup. Roundup is extremely destructive to the environment. Let us hear what this clip shows us.
Today, Roundup is sprayed all over Paraguay by plane or mechanical spreaders driven by unprotected farm workers.
It destroys the biodiversity of the countryside. It brings death, poverty, and illness, as well as the destruction of the natural resources that help us live.
The company has been convicted first in New York 10 years ago and last year in France for false advertising. It's not biodegradable, it's not good for the environment. And I have an interview of a scientist in France who made a study which showed that Roundup leads to the first steps of cancer. It's very important to understand that because 90% of the GMOs grown in the fields belong to Monsanto. And 70% of the GMOs grown in the world have been manipulated to resist Roundup.
Yes, my dear people, this is how dangerous Roundup is. Now here is how GMO gene splicing is done to make Roundup work. When you spray it on soybean or other crops, it does not kill those crops, but it kills the weed. They had to genetically alter the actual crops to make Roundup work, but it has a dangerous effect upon human beings. Here is what this clip shows us.
It seems Monsanto's new wonder has what it takes to entice farmers. But how does it work? How can the soybean plants survive being sprayed with Roundup? This is a soybean cell. The core of this cell contains its DNA, in which the bean's genetic structure is encoded. In order to create its GMOs, Monsanto breaks the species barrier using a Roundup-resistant gene harvested from a bacterium. This gene is placed on microscopic particles of gold, which are fired into the soybean cells with a gene gun. The gene penetrates the DNA and creates a protein, making the plant resistant to Roundup. When the herbicide is sprayed on the crop, it kills all the weeds, leaving the soybean plants intact. One must admit that the process is an incredible technological feat. But these soybeans engineered to withstand such a powerful herbicide are destined for our dinner plates.
Yes, my dear people, indeed, Roundup, this herbicide, this weedicide, is dangerous to man. Let's look at this. Chemicals such as Roundup, glyphosate, can result in damage to the kidney, liver, and the reproductive system. Roundup is one of the most toxic herbicides and is the third most commonly reported cause of pesticide-related illnesses among agricultural workers. Glyphosate is found in weed killers and may cause cardiovascular, nerve, gastrointestinal, and respiratory damage. And yet people are actually eating genetically modified food with those same herbicides, Roundup, in it. Genes resistant to kill the plant with Roundup are in those foods, and people are actually eating those foods. Yes, my dear people, the facts are no studies were done by Monsanto about the safety or dangers of their genetically modified foods. No studies were really done by that corporation. And here is what this clip shows us.
The fact is, there has never been a single study on the human safety of these products. Any implications to the contrary is a pure fabrication. Make the corporate apologists produce a single study, and they cannot. The important point is this: among scientists, the scientific community is deeply divided as to whether these foods are safe or not. So the burden of proof is on industry. And so far, the corporations have failed to demonstrate the safety of these foods on humans through a single study.
Can I assure consumers that scientifically the benefits of genetically modified foods outweigh the risks? And I mean, I can't. How that plays out in society and in the global world that we live in, who knows?
On the other hand, my dear people, Monsanto consistently lied to the public about the bad effects of the hormones that they inject in cows to cause them to increase their milk production. And if they would lie to the public so bad, how can you trust a corporation that puts foodstuff in your stomach? They lied about the injections that they were putting in cows to make them increase milk production. How do you expect them to tell the truth to you about the foods that they have given you to eat? Take a look at what this clip shows us.
Towards the end of 1989, a great box of documents arrived at my office without any indication where they came from. And I opened them and found in it a complete set of Monsanto files, particularly a set of files dealing with toxicological testing of cows who've been given RBGH.
BST, trade name Posilac, is being used in more than a quarter of the dairy herds in the United States, according to Monsanto. The milk has been drunk by a large portion of the American population since the Food and Drug Administration declared it safe for both cows and humans 4 years ago.
And at that time, Monsanto was saying, there's no evidence whatsoever of any adverse effects, we don't use antibiotics, and this clearly showed that they had lied through their teeth. The files described areas of chronic inflammation in the heart, lung, kidney, spleen, also reproductive effects, also a whole series of other problems.
It's the most comprehensive independent assessment of the drug concludes that BST results in unnecessary pain, suffering, and distress for the cows. This is not acceptable for a drug designed simply to increase milk production.
It is a silly product. We have the industrial world is awash in milk. We're overproducing milk. We actually have governments around the world who pay farmers not to produce milk. So the first product Monsanto comes up with is a product that produces more of what we don't need.
Of course, you'll want to inject Posilac to every eligible cow, as each cow not treated is a lost income opportunity.
But the problem was that use of the artificial hormone caused all kinds of problems for the cows. It caused something called mastitis, which is a very painful infection of the udders. When you milk the cow, if the cow has bad mastitis, some of the, and I don't know how to say this in a, I hope people aren't watching at dinner time, but the pus from the infection of the udders ends up in the milk, and the somatic cell count, they call it, the bacteria count inside your milk goes up.
There's a cost to the cows. The cows get sicker when they're injected with RBGH. They're injected with antibiotics. We know that people are consuming antibiotics through their food, and we know that that's contributing to antibiotic-resistant bacteria and diseases. And we know we're at a crisis when somebody can go into a hospital and get a staph infection and it can't be cured and they die. That's a crisis.
Bad for the cow, bad for the farmer, bad potentially for the consumer.
Now, wasn't that clip horrible? Yes, it was. Now, here is this important fact. Even the rats refused to eat Monsanto's genetically modified corn. Even the rats in the wild refused to eat it. Let's see what this clip shows us. Now, the picture you are looking at here tells us a large amount of important data about the destructive effect of genetically modified foods. If you're looking at this picture here, you would see an organic corn to your left, and to your right you'll see a genetically modified organism corn. You'd observe after 3 months, rats ate out of the organic corn, but they left the genetically modified organism corn right there. They didn't even touch it. Why? Because the rats sensed something was wrong with this GMO corn. And if the rats can find out that something is wrong with that type of corn, why should we be eating such corn? So it clearly shows us that GMO corn versus organic corn, as left in a barn in South Dakota, clearly proves that the mice ate the good corn and left back the GMO corn. Let me read what is said here for you. Organic dairy farmer Paul Funder decided to do a second feeding study with GMO corn versus organic corn in his barn in South Dakota. The mice got to work while Paul was busy on the farm this spring. 3 months later, not even a nibble was taken out of the GMO corn. Did you see that? And this clearly shows us that it is not right that we should be using GMO products. But here is proof of the cancers and tumors and growths caused by Monsanto's genetically modified soya when they fed it to white rats. So here is what it produced. This clearly shows how dangerous it is to your health. This next picture you are looking at here is extremely horrible. These white rats were fed GMO products. And look at the tumors and cancers that grew on their bodies as a result of feeding on GMO products. If you look, you see the big cancerous sore at the side of one of those rats. Again, you would see another cancerous sore at the lower part of those rats. And on the other rat, you would see a big cancerous sores on both sides of the body. This is what happens when you feed on GMO products. Experimenting with rats clearly shows that they are not good for your body, as you have seen here in this picture. Do you want to get cancer sores in your body? Do you want your genes to be interfered with by GMO products? If you want them to be interfered with, then you can choose to go ahead and eat GMO products. But if you don't, then you cannot be eating GMO products. Let this example from this rat that you are looking at here show you that you must not use GMO products. Yes, my dear people, didn't that picture look horrible? Now here are actual photographs of the testicles of rats. Some fed with GMO soy, some fed without the GMO soy. You'd observe the difference between the two. Now this picture that you are looking at here are the testicles removed from rats that were fed GMO and rats that were not fed GMO. And they're showing you the difference. On your left is the testicle of a rat that was not fed on GMO. And on your right are the testicles of rats that were fed with GMO. The testicles of rats fed with GMO soy were of a darker color. Also, on your left you are seeing the cells of rats that were not fed with GMO. And on your right you are seeing the cells of rats that were fed with GMO in the bottom pictures here. And the cells showed significant differences compared to those of rats fed non-GMO soy. So you see, the facts are GMO products actually affects your very cells. It damages your very cells. It is destruction that takes place on a cellular level of your body. This is the reason why you cannot be using GMO products and expect to be safe in your health. Furthermore, even the destruction of pig stomachs can be seen in this information and in this picture that we are giving you about GMO foods. When the pigs ate it, it destroyed their stomachs. You will see the comparison between the two, showing you destroyed stomachs and good stomachs from the pigs. What you are looking at here is the stomach of a pig that was fed GMO and the stomach of a pig that was not fed GMO. On your right, the GMO-fed pig, and on your left, the stomach of the pig that was not fed with GMO. You'd observe how destroyed and diseased the stomach of the pig that was fed with GMO, how it looks. And you'd observe the stomach of the pig that was not fed GMO. Now the facts are, pig stomach on a whole is definitely not good because pig is a scavenger. But look how destroyed the stomach of the pig that fed on GMO is. This clearly again illustrates why GMO products are definitely not good and must not be used for human consumption. Yes, my dear people, what have all these things that we have seen shown us so far? They have shown us that GMO foods, genetically modified organisms foods, are definitely not good for man. Look at this clip. Monsanto, GMO food. More than 75% of processed foods contain GMO ingredients. 7 out of 10 food items have been genetically modified. GMO soybeans and corn make up the largest portion of genetically modified crops. Yes, my dear people. GMO utilizes terminator technology to create seeds that self-destruct. GMO seeds and the forthcoming crops are sterile, forcing farmers to buy GMO seeds each year as opposed to using seeds from their harvest to replant the following year. And so they make more money as farmers have to buy more seeds every year. But when you are eating those seeds, you are eating sterile seeds with terminator technology in it, and that is becoming part of your genetic makeup. How destructive this is to the human being. We should make sure we do not partake of GMO products. GMO foods pose a serious health risk in the areas of allergy and immune function, reproductive health, toxicology, and metabolic, physiologic, and genetic health. This is the reason why, my dear people, the destruction of GMO foods upon your body is deep and far-reaching and almost irreversible. This is the reason why you must not use genetically modified organisms as part of your diet.
Yes, dear viewers and listeners, do you see how dangerous GMOs are? And could you imagine that in the face of these realities and in the face of this information which is in the public domain, the government of this country wants to pass a biosafety bill. It's called the Biosafety Bill of 2007 to regulate the handling and transfers of GMOs within our country. We are very concerned here at the DRP of this development because we recognize that our people are not informed enough about the dangers of GMOs, and we do not support the handling and transfer, the legalizing thereof, of those products in our environment. In fact, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, and I'll be passing some information across the screen for you right now, the World Health Organization's IARC, the Cancer Research Agency, has recently released information showing the dangers of certain chemicals which are known to be associated with GMOs, namely glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in herbicides such as Roundup, Roundup Ultra, and Touchdown. This document proves, and it was released on the 20th of March 2015, so it's very recent, that glyphosate, the herbicide glyphosate used to kill herbs and weeds, as well as insecticides such as malathion, are classified as probably carcinogenic to humans. In other words, they are saying that these chemicals can cause cancer in human beings, and they are saying this based on the evidence they have that exposures to these chemicals on agricultural environments in the USA, Canada, and Sweden has shown that there was limited evidence of cancer in humans and sufficient evidence of cancerous tumors in animals. Yes, we showed that to you in the clips that we showed you a while ago, where when they did testing on rats and other creatures, they saw that they developed tumors. Imagine what it's doing in you and my body if we eat GMOs. But the fact is, we are selling, and this other document proves it, we are selling malathion right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines through our agricultural input warehouse. We're selling malathion, we're selling Roundup Ultra, as well as Touchdown. Yeah, we're selling them by the whether it is by the gallon, by the liter, and farmers are buying them and using them perhaps because they don't know any better. And recently, Bermuda took this research information from the World Health Organization so seriously that they announced, their Minister of Health, Jean Atherton, Bermuda Minister of Health, announced in an article called Bermuda Suspends Glyphosate-Ridden Monsanto Roundup Indefinitely. They announced that they're going to stop importing Roundup because they have sufficient evidence of the dangers it is causing to the health of the environment and of their people. What are we doing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Nothing. Well, the Democratic Republican Party is too concerned about the health of our people and the health and wealth of our agricultural environment to ignore it. This is why we have repeatedly stated our position for agricultural development, that we will ban the use of genetically engineered seeds in our agricultural environment. We will require, through legislation, labeling of GMO foods that are imported for local consumption and that are sold on our shelves. And we will also ban the use of hazardous chemicals such as the ones mentioned, malathion, glyphosate, in Roundup, Roundup Ultra, and Touchdown. And we will also ensure that we have a seed policy and legislation to protect our seeds from being interfered with by genetically modified organisms. We will ensure we have a seed bank of organic and natural seeds which can be grown and grown again and again and again without being killed, as is the case with genetically engineered seeds. They are made sterile. We also talked about the fact that we will encourage organic farming throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we already have the connections with countries like Bhutan in Asia, which is engaged in causing the whole of their country to become organic. We're already in contact, for example, with the head of Bhutan's organic department, organic farming department. Yes, Ms. Kisang. We're in contact with their coordinator of National Organic Program because we recognize the importance of learning from other countries and indeed bringing our experts right here locally together who are already engaged in organic farming to help our farmers. There are ways to do organic farming which is very beneficial, which will help you to earn money. There are those who try to push the argument that you can't earn as much through organic farming. It is not true. There are bio or natural pesticides and herbicides that you can use which do not do the same damage as GMO pesticides to the environment and to your health. And as a matter of fact, there's great market out there for organic farming because many countries in Europe and in other places are already banning GMOs. Countries such as Germany, Ireland, Austria, Greece, Hungary, Australia, New Zealand, India, Thailand, Luxembourg, Bulgaria, Madeira, Switzerland, Japan. That's almost 15 countries I've called for you. And they're saying, we want organic. We've banned GMOs. So there's market there for us, but we must protect our food and ensure what we grow is organic so that they'll be interested in buying from us when we offer them. The DRP recognizes this and recognizes that governance is not about who thief, reef, and who rape. It is about serious business. It is about growing the economy. It is about protecting our people's health and the agricultural environment so they can be safe, so that they can make money, be employed, and that they can be happy. And because of this, you can support this DRP. Vote for us. Call us at the number on your screen, 528-1015. And when we bring our candidates to you, vote for the DRP. Suggest candidates to us for areas where we don't have candidates as yet. Just contact us, 528-1015. Send a WhatsApp, send a Viber, 528-1015. And until our next program, we love you and we are here to protect your inalienable rights and freedoms. Amen.